I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees for conferring this honorary degree on me, especially because it's made me a member of the class of 2014, and I'm proud to be in your number. I congratulate you, all of you and each of you, on the achievement of reaching this important moment in your life and education, and I extend my congratulations to your parents and your families and all the friends that you have here today and those who are back at home for the love and support which have made your journey to this moment possible. A couple other thank yous, if you'll bear with me. I'd like to thank the members of the board, this board that I've served with and the others that have served with me for the preceding years for their tremendous commitment to LaSalle. And I want to especially underline the board chairs that I work with. Jack Shea, who is now deceased, he was the first one, Jim Lynch, and most recently Bill Sauter, with whom I've worked so many, many years, and for whom I have incredible affection and respect for his generosity, for his insight, for his commitment to LaSalle, and his love, really, of this city and everything about it. I want to thank the faculty and the staff of LaSalle University. All of you who are here and all who have worked with me over the 15 years before in presidency and in my colleagues when I was on the full-time faculty, there is no way to express the impact that I see you making, and also no way really to express my gratitude for your goodness and generosity and inspiration to the students of LaSalle. I am especially thankful also for the members of the President's team, the Vice Presidents and the Executive Assistants and the Provosts who have had to put up with me in close quarters for all these years. Without their energy, without their hard work, without their patience, without their vision, I would not be getting the kudos that I got today. And I can't say enough about the Christian brothers with whom I share this great work and who have been my closest support for 49 years. Now, since I'm a member of the class of 2014, I can say with certainty something that I have said every year in the past, that this is my favorite class. And it will remain forever so and unique, since you are the last class to whom I'll be able to say that as president. I reserve the right, though, to say that about succeeding classes when I return as a teacher in the fall of 2015. But you are my favorites, and you may not tell the others. Somebody asked me what that means when I say it. It's a little embarrassing and it sounds a bit highfalutin, but it really is a way of expressing my love for the members of the class and for all that they have shared with me and with the people that I know and with each other. And I sense the same kind of feeling when I come into this stadium and I feel the energy and love from the stands radiating towards you, their children, and I think that I'm on the right target with my feelings about you. During the time when I was preparing the speech, I happened to have a conversation with a local CEO of a nonprofit who once served on LaSalle's board with me. And she said she wanted to pick my brains about commencement speeches because she was giving her first one, and she figured I had a lot of experience. She was a bit surprised when I told her, no, this was my very first. If you take the exception of the time I spoke at my high school graduation, I want to assure you I am not going to quote from that speech, but it was dripping with the naivete and idealism of the 1960s when I was a high school graduate. But the CEO told me that she intended to talk about change and how change is the only constant that we can look forward to. And that comment stayed with me as I developed what I want to say this morning, which I would call just a little bit some thoughts about what Gandhi meant when he said, "Be the change you want to see." This emphasis on change is not new. The members of the philosophy department will be quick to point out that at least in the 6th century BC, Greek philosophers were talking about how change is the only constant in life. I think we all know that that's the case, even if most of the time we don't like to pay attention to it. There is a huge body of literature today, ranging from the popular to the scholarly, about the importance of change, and a big website, change.org. What is new today about change is probably the rapidity and the pervasiveness of change, which can feel like it is sweeping over us with each new app coming from the West, the Silicon Valley, and moving across the country and the globe, or in each new perfectly wrapped product from Apple. But it isn't those devices that are the change. It is the access to information and connectivity that these small and sleek tools make possible. That is the change that propels further change, change that is global in scope. The more I thought about this kind of change, this big change, I came upon a quote from Gandhi, which I showed you as my title, but I didn't find it on my own. I found it in some of the statements that students in my class wrote when they were applying for the rainbow sashes that they wear, signifying their commitment to projects that are directed towards social justice. Many of them cited it, and almost all of them pointed to some experience that they had, a service experience that changed their lives. Those personal stories and those applications told of change coming into their lives, but wrapped in quite different packages from iPhones. They are wrapped in the package of a relationship with someone who looks, on the surface, quite different from them. Quite different and in need of your help, your generosity, your time, your expertise. It was the desire to be of help in large measure that attracted these students to service, and that has probably touched every graduate in this class at some point in their life. But upon getting into relationship with one of these different people, one learns that they are not so different after all. Members of our class have had such experiences in Harlan, Kentucky, on the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana, at Calcutta House with people who have HIV and AIDS, tutoring children from the neighborhoods, or at LaSalle Academy, or volunteering at Cristo Rey Academy up on Broad Street. And the list goes on, even to include relationships that you have with each other, developed late at night, wherever they took place, where you discovered that a person that you thought was really different from you, for whatever reason, is really the same. I myself have had experiences like this, and I won't list all of them, but I'll tell you the first one that stuck with me, and it has never left. When I was a student brother in college, right before I was in your spot, so this is back in the late 60s, the student brothers would spend their weekends at either St. Gabriel's Hall, which was a place for children who had violated some law and were, in quote, incarcerated, although St. Gabe's was far from a prison. And the others of us went to St. Francis, which was an orphanage out in Eddington. And I was always out at Eddington. I was always with the kids who were orphans. And I realized something when I got there. You know, I thought, well, they're different from me. And I had a big surprise. Most of these children had parents. They just couldn't afford to keep them. And I realized that they were just like me. I was a little older. In some cases, I wasn't their race. I was a different race. They wanted to learn. They wanted to grow up. They wanted to have a good life. They didn't have a whole lot of support and equipment. So that recognition that they were like me turned a light bulb on. What that light illuminates is the same light that gets shed on those nighttime conversations when you discover a friend, when you meet somebody at the Blackfoot Indian Reservation who has aspirations like yours. It's the light that says we share the same humanity. We are equally frail, equally vulnerable, equally hopeful, equally in need of each other. These up-close and personal experiences of change, where it gets right into your life, are a necessary complement to the experience of being swept in and swept over by technological change or environmental change, or the great insights that are developing in our lifetime into the genetic code. Up-close personal change rounds out those big changes, those big ideas that have to be grappled with. We cannot ignore the big ideas, and that's not my message. Why do they round it off? Why do they make those experiences complete? Because the up-close humanizes us, makes us attractive, accessible to other people, draws people into the cause that we have. Maybe it is the big sweeping changes. Maybe it's commitment to children with special needs. Maybe it's the desire to practice law to achieve justice. You name it. There are probably 1,000 versions of what that cause is out there today on this field. The capacity to reveal our own experience to somebody else and to let that person's experience enter ours is what makes all the difference. I don't want to offer these two visions of change as a forced option. It's not either or. We don't and cannot choose between them. Neither is avoidable. Both options present themselves to us. We need both. And I believe that optimally, the great sweeping experiences of change and the intimate personal ones come together and mutually depend on each other. Now, let me cite one quick example of this. At the very basis of the tradition that we share as LaSallians, John Baptist de La Salle is known to the world as the founder of a religious order, as a saint of the Catholic Church, and as a revolutionary in the history of education for instituting simultaneous instruction to replace one-on-one recitation between the teacher and the student as the sole mode of teaching. It's not an exaggeration to call LaSalle a revolutionary and to point to the change that he instituted as transformative in French education and globally. That transformative educational insight started in two personal encounters. The first with a man named Adrien Niel, who was a charismatic but disorganized schoolmaster who was able to start schools, but he couldn't organize them to save his life. LaSalle could. The second, and perhaps more important encounter, LaSalle saw poor boys in the cities of France, and his heart was touched by them. It was in being touched by their plight, their need for education, their need to have somebody who cared about them enough to help them up, that started his commitment to the brothers. And I believe that the core values of our LaSallian tradition, respect for the individual, equal respect for a strong and authentic personal community, commitment to learning for the common good, and an understanding that faith and spirituality enlarge and enrich us, those core values come from up-close personal experiences that go back to John Baptist de La Salle. So today, when you commence, when you begin the next phase of your life, whatever that is, wherever it takes you, and I hope it brings you back to LaSalle often, physically and emotionally, be an explorer, but don't just take the flat explorer with you. Remember this guy from last year? Take yourself. Be the change you want to see, and be changed by the people whose lives you are invited to enter. God bless you along the way.